Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Please accept my obeisances. Glory for Srila Prabhupada.
Haribol. There is no introduction, I think.
Okay. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, devotees, all assembled here. This is the second series that we've had here with His Grace Manonatha Maharaj, who's been very gracious enough to continue hosting and giving us lectures. So we're here with the Srimad Bhagavatam, and just very grateful to have you all here and just continue hearing, just for the opportunity to continue hearing. So with that, I will go ahead and pass it over.
Hare Krishna. Very well. Today is going to be the conference, video conference number 23. From the very first beginning, when we began and finished the Bhagavad Gita. So, first of all, we are going to offer our obeisances, as usual, to deities and the Guru. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayet. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, and to Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta prayeshva pateshu nityam bhagavata sevayam bhagavati uttama shloke patir bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering the service to the pure devotee, all that is troubles unto the heart is completely, almost completely, destroyed. A loving service unto the personality of Godhead, with praise, with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatavine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayadvaita Gadada Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We are going to begin today with the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse number 5. Munaya sadhu prishtoham bhavad bhilokamangalam yat krita krishna samprashno yenatma suprasidati. O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. So although it is quite normal to guess that to give a speech, to give a lecture, one needs to know how to do it and has to be relevant. Otherwise, one one should speak. One of the name for a sage or for a devotee is Muni. Muni comes from the Sanskrit root Mauna. Mauna means silence. The sage does not speak. Obviously, does not speak of material things. He keeps silent. He keeps mum. He speaks only when he can speak about Krishna. He can speak about things that are useful. So here we see something different. That Sutta Goswami says that making question is as important as giving a lecture. Here, Sutta Goswami is glorifying the sages for putting questions. We have seen the whole of chapter 1 of the Bhagavatam. We are studying the chapter 2, the second chapter. The first chapter is made by questions by the sages. And we have studied very briefly last time the six were the questions that the sages put to Sutta Goswami. And the Sutta Goswami is going to answer one by one. And this answer is going to take many verses. And we are going to study them all. But here, Sutta Goswami says your questions are worthy. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. So those who come to Bhagavata or Bhagavad Gita, to any class, you should learn the art of making questions. So now we are going to proceed to the verse. But before continuing, I want to answer one question. Actually, it wasn't a question. It was something that I promised some time ago, maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, that I was going to explain the meaning of Namisha. As you know, we are now in Namisharanya. Aranya means forest, Namisha. So I said, and I don't forget these kind of things, I promise you that I'm going to explain the meaning of Naimisha, and I'm going to do it now. So there are several reasons, a meaning of the word Naimisha. So first of all, Aranya means forest. But so what is the meaning, the Sanskrit meaning? You say the explanation of the word. There is a word in English.
Definition?
Yeah, but there is a technical definition when we study the origin of a word. Anyway, so Aranya comes from the Sanskrit Rina, which means a battlefield. And so Arana means a place of no battle. Forests are places of no battle. The kings who wanted a break from daily activities and battles always used to retire to the deep jungles, Aranya. So this is the meaning of the word Aranya. So let's see now Naimisha. Nimisha in Sanskrit is a fraction of one moment. It's very short. It's like basically Nimisha is almost the time, a little more than the time that it takes for the, how you say, this one, doing, tonight I'm going to have difficulties with English.
Blink?
The battle of the eyes. When you do like, to blink, yes, the blink. This a little more than blinking. One day I will explain the different divisions of those time in Vedic culture. And the mission is a blink, okay? So a story says that one time Lord Vishnu came in this place and he killed some demons in this place. And he did it in a fraction of a second, Nimisha. So this is the reason why this place, Naimisharanya, is called Naimisha. But there are also other stories. This is from the Mahabharata. This story that I told is in some Purana, I don't remember which one, but this is directly from the Mahabharata. The Kali Yuga had begun, and the Rishi wanted to know where to go to do austerities without being bothered by the influence of Kali. So the Rishi, led by Shaunaka, approached Lord Brahma. They requested Brahma to show them a place where the effect of Kali Yuga will not prevail. Brahma then took a chakra is the wheel, the Vishnu's wheel, and they threw it up to the earth. And he said that the place where the chakra will stop, because it was spinning, wherever the chakra will stop in the planet, there will be a place where Kali will have no influence. The Rishi then followed the chakra, which stopped at Namisharanya. The word Nemi means the external part of a wheel, and thus the place where it stopped is known as Naimisharanya, coming from Nemi. Nemi again is the outer part of it. And this place is also known as Chakra Tirtha. If you go to India, that is called Naimisharanya, but also known as Chakra Tirtha. So since Brahma blessed this place and that Kali Yuga will have no effect here, they retired in Naimisharanya to do their austerities and speak about and hear Mahabharata, Srimad Bhagavatam, and do a sort of ceremonies. And they set up their ashram there. So this is the meaning of the word Naimisha and the meaning of word Aranya. So now I want to show you where Naimisharanya is in India. Okay, this is important. If I get a map, oh my God, let me medium full size tomorrow. Okay, this is the map. Watch now where Naimisharanya is. Okay, so I don't know if any of you ever went to India, but anyway, this is Delhi, also called Hastinapur. You see it here? Somebody answer me. You see it or not?
Yes.
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 This is Delhi, and this is Naimisharanya. Okay, it's not far from Lucknow or Utpalini, and so it's in the northern part of India. It's still in Uttar Pradesh. So anyone who goes to India, they should go to Naimisharanya possibly. Okay. All right. So I think we have done with Naimisharanya for the time being. Of course, we are going to speak a lot about Naimisharanya. There are many other stories and other things, but basically I absolved my promise to tell you the meaning of Naimisharanya. Okay, so let's go ahead. This is another very, very important verse, and that's why I'm going to read it. Normally, I will not read all the verses, otherwise, very long. But some verses are so important that it deserves that we read it, we recite the verse, the Sanskrit verse, and we give some explanation. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radhokshaje ahai tukiya pratihata yayatma suprasidate. The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which man can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Learn it by memory, this verse. this verse is very powerful for our spiritual life and for preaching, because if someone tell you, what is your religion? Is a religion yours? If it is a religion, can you tell me in a few words what is your Hare Krishna philosophy, your Vedic philosophy? This way you can recite this verse. That our philosophy allows you or facilitate people to attain loving devotional service unto the Transcendental Lord, and how it should be, how what is the perfect way of practicing this culture, unmotivated and uninterrupted. Devotional service must be unmotivated, means I should not have material motivation. Not that I should not have a spiritual motivation. We have spoken about this a few times, and we have seen Prahlad Maharaj. He said, "I don't want anything." While we have seen that many devotees, yes, Lord, please give me this, please, I want. Even asking for devotional service is a personal desire. So unmotivated means no material motivation. And uninterrupted is that once one begins practicing Krishna consciousness, it should not stop. In the history of our movement, we have this phenomenon quite normal of people coming and going, coming and going, coming and going, coming back and then going again. There are people who does that for years and years, tens of years. I know people who does this since ever, 50 years, have been coming and going. This is not good. Devotional service should be uninterrupted. Once you begin, then you continue. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of God, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. This is another wonderful verse. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Gyanam Chayad Aha Itukam. Ashu means very quickly, very quickly. And actually, here the translation is immediately. So very quickly or immediately, it's okay, both or translation. And once one starts doing devotional service, studying the philosophy, immediately acquires knowledge. Before coming to Krishna consciousness, you didn't know about the soul. You didn't know about the eternity of the soul. You didn't know that God is where He is, what He does. This is knowledge. It's so our life completely changes when we come to know this truth. And detachment from the world. Detachment means once I start to experience the pleasure of knowledge and devotion to the Lord, one starts to see the material world as insignificant. Insignificant means nothing. Means nothing. Money and pleasures and whatever, that's nothing. Dharma svanushtita pumsam vishvaksena kata suyaha notpada yet yatiratim shrama eva ikevalam. This is another important verse. That's why I'm reciting in Sanskrit. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. Here, Sutta Goswami is making a point. The point is that what is really important in human life, and is dividing the activities which provoke attraction for Krishna and those things who do not provoke attraction for Krishna. So, Shrama eva ikevalam. Shrama means useless. Useless. Those activities, which means what you do, what you say, what you think, what you decide, everything, if does not provoke attraction for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is a useless labor, shramaha, useless labor. And kevalam means completely useless. So Sutta Goswami is quite strong on this point. So we had to understand, he was talking to sages, he was talking to materialistic people that he has to encourage them. He didn't have to encourage. And of course, he didn't have to encourage us also, because we, if we listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, it's because we want liberation. We don't want someone who told me, yes, you know, okay, you can do this. No, he said, what you do provokes attraction for Krishna, good. Does not provoke attraction, Krishrama eva kevalam. Useless labor, entirely useless labor. Dharmasaya pavargasya, nartartayo pakalpate, nartasya dharmaikantasya, kamo labhaya is hismritaha. All occupational engagement are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. So as you see, Sutta Goswami says materialistic life is useless. Okay. So then what you do, you should not work for enjoyment of your body, because everything is just a second, does not last. So it's useless. It's a moment of pleasure, and then it's finished. The sages aim for eternal pleasure, that one who never has to come and will never go away. So if someone tells you, I will give you a pleasure that never ends, and a pleasure with just a second, what do you choose? Obviously, there is no question. One should engage only for cultivate Krishna consciousness. I continue reading because these first verses are also, these verses are verses that I learned by memory. I know them, I knew them before I got old and my memory went away. I knew them all by memory. That's why when I see them, I want to recite them just because it's a pleasure for me to recite them. Kamasyanendriya priti labo jiveta yavata. Jiva syatat prajigyasa nartoyas cheha karma bihi. Life desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's work. So beautiful, beautiful verses, so clearly, philosophically important for us. Sutta Goswami is telling us, it's instructing us how to live, that a human being is meant for inquiry, absolute truth, and then live as a devotee. Then the first part is answering a question. Then I should not eat, I should not sleep, I should take physical activity. No, one should decide only healthy life. So that means that that we should eat, we should sleep, we should have a nice house, we should have, but just the necessity, just the necessary. We shouldn't strive for the bigger house. Or if what you have is enough, be content with that. Don't go around wasting years of your life to get something more than what you have. Padanti tattva vidas tattam yajnana madvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavanti sabdyate. learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Oh, Bhagavan. Here, in the verse 11, Sutta Goswami is describing the Supreme Being. And he says that immediately he goes from one topic to the other in 1 second. And he says, the Supreme Absolute Truth has three aspects. That is called Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. We are going to describe these three in many, many details in the future. Now, Brahman means the energy. Just like we have energy. We speak, this is an energy. We hear, this is an energy. We think, it's an energy. We decide, we love, we hate. All these things are our energies. So the Supreme Truth also has energies. He does things with his energies. These energies are called Brahman, with an N. Brahma and Brahman are two different things. Brahma is masculine. Brahman is neutral. So Brahman means energy. It's not personal because it belongs to the person. Just like our speech power is not a person. It's not that my speech power go away and start to speak without me. The speech power needs me to exist. So in Paramatma means he expands himself in many personalities, some of whom enter into the heart of a human being, some of them enters into the atoms of the material creation, some of them becomes incarnation of avatars, etc., etc. And Bhagavan. Bhagavan means the supreme person. Bhagavan is a person. Parantita tattva vidas tattvam yach jnanam advayam. Advaya means non-dual. Non-dual means it's not that in Krishna's existence there is him and the contrary of him. Everything exists is him. So tattvam jnanam advayam. Everything is one. Everything is Krishna. Which is not this is not Mayavada philosophy. We are part of the one. So the one is one and many at the same time. I wanted to make specific because I don't want you to go around and say Manonatha has become a Mayavadi. I'm not a Mayavadi. So let's proceed. 1, 2, 12. Tachrattatana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya. Pashantyatmani chatvanam bhakta shruta grihitayaha. Mangrihitayaha. Grihitaya. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes the absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from Vedanta Shruti. From Vedanta Shruti. So, what this verse is teaching us, that we should study the scripture and then we should practice the teachings of the scriptures. And then once he has knowledge and detachment, because by studying and practicing, one becomes disinterested in materialistic life, and then the realization of absolute truth become effect. Tachrattatana muna yo jnana vairagya yutaya pashantyatmani chatmanam bhakta shruta grihitaya. Just a few verses more because they are so very important. Now the number 13, 12. Oh, that's funny.
That was 12.
There was 12. I know, it's double. It's written twice. Okay. Okay, I will erase it. Number 13. Atapum Dvijashreshta Varnashrama Vibhagashaha Svanushthitasya Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation, according to caste divisions and ordinary life, is to please the personality of Godhead. Like often, many times, my preaching life, I've been asked, I'm a grihasta, I am a householder, I have a wife, I have a husband, I have a son, I have a job. So I'm a devotee. You know, a devotee can be an householder, can not live in a temple or not going in India, retire, or going up in a mountain, do severe yogic activities, etc. Here, it is said that one should discharge the duties prescribed for your occupation. You should do it. You should be a good householder. You should your job should be. You should not be dishonest. If you work, then you have to do it honestly to deserve your monthly wage. And obviously, in the Vedic time, it was not obliged to do work which was against his nature. But we are in the West, we are in Kali Yuga. Maybe you are a Brahmana and you have to do some stupid work just for the money. And during Vedic time, that was not the case. Everyone was properly engaged according to his nature. And this is called Varnashrama. Varnashrama Vibhagashaha. There were divisions of Varna and Ashrama. We are going to talk about Varnashrama in the future. So, and but you should add Krishna consciousness to your life, just like each of you. You go to the temple, you do some service, you chant Hare Krishna, you have an altar, you read the scriptures, and this is good. This is how we should live in Krishna consciousness. So we continue we continue. Tasmad dekena manasa, number 14. Tasmad dekena manasa bhagavan sattvatam patihi shrotavya kirtitavyascha heya pujyascha nityada. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of God, who is the protector of the devotees. So very practical instructions. Okay, you are an householder, you got a job, you have to work, it's okay. But then you should constantly hear, just like you are doing, you come to Bhagavatam class. You should glorify the Supreme Personality of God by chanting Hare Krishna, for instance. That is glorification. You should remember when you come to classes, when you chant Hare Krishna, when you go to the temple, you remember Krishna, and then worship the personality of God. That everything we do is worship. Otherwise, why we chant Hare Krishna and not somebody else? Because we worship Krishna and not the other one. So worship means that we give our entire attention to the personality of Godhead. Okay, number 15. Yadanodya sinayukta karma grantini bandhanam chindanti kovidastasya kona kurya kataratim. With sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, karma. Reactionary, it gives a reaction. By remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? So why we are not millions in this moment in this conference? You are not millions because they don't want to pay attention to this message. And so they are losing a great opportunity. Karma is like a very complicated knot. So sometimes, just like when we have, especially women, when they have long hairs, they become knotted. So sometimes it's impossible to how you say, to
Undo
the knot, and you have to cut them. So it is, this material world is so complicated. You have to cut the knot of reactionary work, karma, by remembering the Supreme Personality. Sutta Goswami said, actually, Krishna consciousness is very simple. Only 2 instructions. Always remember Krishna, never forget him. That's all. This is Krishna consciousness. Obviously, we have a very complicated, long philosophy, etc., etc. But if we want to resume it, or help me summarize, or say it in 2 words, in a few words, these 2 words or 2 declarations should be always remember Krishna, never forget him. Shushrusho Shraddhanasya Vasudeva Kata Ruchihi Syanmaha Sevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nishevanat. 8 wise-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, we gain affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So we should serve the pure devotees. We should find the pure devotees. And once we find them, then we should not waste time. We should offer service. Because once he does that, he gains a great affinity or attraction for hearing the message of Vasudeva. See, in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a very, very, very famous verse. We don't tire to recite it, where it is said how important it is to accept a spiritual master, which is Tadvidhi Pranipatena 1, Pariprashnena 2, Sevaya 3, Upadeshanti 4. So 4 activities are the main activities of human life. Tadvidhi Pranipatena, you should look for a spiritual master. Second, you should make question, pariprashna. Pariprashna means make question. And seva. And seva means doing service. And then upadesha, which is initiation. So what is the difference between why one should make questions and why we should give service? Because by making question, one gains knowledge. And by doing service, one gains mercy. Without mercy, you don't know anything with knowledge. Knowledge is not all in all. Knowledge must be blessed with mercy. And the mercy comes from accepting those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, etc., etc. This is what the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita says. Once one is knowledge and mercy, his knowledge activates itself. Otherwise, it's like a seed. You put it there, but if you put water and you don't put the sunrise, etc., sun rays, etc., nothing comes out of it. So even if you study, but you don't get the mercy of a pure devotee, then the knowledge does not activate and remains a good philosophy. You know a lot of things, but you don't do much in terms of spiritual life with that. And so what about Upadesh? Upadesh, you are connected with the Parampara. Without Upadesh, initiation, you are not connected. You are a devotee. You are not connected to the Parampara. verse 17, Shrimvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Ridyantasto Yabatrani Vidunoti Surissatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart, and the benefactor or the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. You should not hear Srimad Bhagavatam just from anyone. Not only you don't get much benefit, but sometimes can even be, you say, damaging or
detrimental.
Detrimental. Yeah, detrimental. Just like milk is good, but if a snake, a poisonous snake, touches that milk, then it becomes poisonous. So you drink the milk, you say, "Oh, this is good," you know. And you don't know it's poisonous and you're going to die. So it's a very important not only hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, but you should hear it from proper sources. And so once one begins this process of hearing, practicing Krishna consciousness, so Krishna from the heart helps you to cleanse the desire for material enjoyment from your heart. And although sometimes at the beginning of spiritual life, one begins a little afraid and say, "Oh no, I don't want to lose my desire for life. You know, I like a few things." But when someone becomes knowledgeable person, he wants that because he knows that if he becomes detached from the material world, he can taste much superior pleasure in life. That pleasures of material life is just useless. And Shrama Eva, Heva, Ikevalam, complete useless labor. And we are going to finish with the verse we have begun. Nashta prayeshva badrishu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamaśloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regularly attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. A loving service unto the personality of God with praise to the transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. So you are doing all this, you are coming regularly to the Bhagavatam class. Today somebody is missing, unfortunately, but normally you should come every week to our Bhagavatam class. I feel a little tired right now physically, so I need to rest a second. So I think we can have some question, please, so I can rest a second. Yes, Bhakti Rosaline, Haribo.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. My question is about verse number 5, where it is stated that an all-around solution to all problems pertaining to social, political, or religious matters are, reading the Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna, they're the sum total of all things. And I was wondering if that means that what we are learning in the Srimad Bhagavatam, if there are lessons that we're supposed to be applying to other aspects of our life, or is it that we shouldn't even be bothered, to think about anything else other than Krishna and the Bhagavatam? Thank you.
I remember one time that there was one devotee of ISKCON that he ran as a mayor of Orlando, and he had good opportunities to be elected. And it was a long time ago. Prabhupada was still with us. We were a bunch of kids, you know. And Prabhupada said, don't waste your time, you know. That is a waste of time. Although it was clear that Srila Prabhupada didn't mean that taking interest in political life in this world is completely rejectable, that we had not to take any interest in that. Because we have our ideas how the society should be run. It's not that our philosophy is just for going away from this world. Who cares what happens in this world? Our philosophy is not a runaway philosophy, you know, and everybody else stays in. We have very clear ideas how to run a society. Of course, having ideas and then putting it into practice are two different things. So there are a lot of people that have very bright ideas that they just can't do it. Like I remember, I was in Puerto Rico at the time. I was hearing to a young politician, very, very young at that time, that everybody was saying, he's very smart, he's very intelligent, his name was Obama. I think it was at the beginning of 2000, it was 20 years ago, before he was a senator, before everything. So I listened to one of his speech, and he says, we had to close Guantanamo. And when he ran as a president, he said, I am going to close Guantanamo in 100 days. And Guantanamo is still there. So some journalists asked him, you promised, why you didn't do it? And he said, because they don't let me do it. You know, I'm not the king. I cannot do whatever I want. If I could do what I want, of course, it's a heck easier, you know. Just like in Vedic time, it was a monarchy. You know, it was much easier. You know, there was an enlightened king, coadjuvated. Coadjuvated exists in English? No, helped. Conjointly
Collaborated, yes.
With a group of Brahmana. Yes. Every temple should have a Brahminical council, you know, and we should have a temple president, and we should have a Brahminical council, so that the president or the king acts in an effective way based on wisdom that comes from the scripture, that comes from realization, that comes from philosophical understanding. The many, many choices made by kings or by temple presidents are not based on Brahminical mood, or Brahminical mentality, and this is not good. This is not good. Then our movement becomes something else. So we have our idea how a society should run, but will they let us do it? You know, will they let us run a society according to Mahabharata and Vedas and Ramayana and Puranas and Vedangas and Upavedas and Upanishads? They will not. So that's why Srila Prabhupada was a very practical man. He said, I want all of you to become Brahmanas, not Kshatriya. Running a society is a Kshatriya work, it's not Brahminical work. Brahmana should study, and Brahmana should be intelligent, and Brahmana should be equipoised. This is the work of a Brahmana. So then when it comes to the point, it comes the moment of giving advices, he can do it in the right way. He can give the right advices. Should we desire to run a city or country, or maybe, yeah, or maybe, but we had to be ready to accept a lot of compromises, because we cannot oblige people to do the right things. We are not Talibans. We are not going to kill people if they eat meat. You can't do that. You know, material world is a place for degenerated or degraded people. So they need the material world. You cannot transform the material world, because otherwise demons say, okay, you know, either I went away from the spiritual world, I came here to enjoy materially, and now you are transforming the material world in Vaikuntha, and where do I go? Give me a place where I can stay. This sounds like a joke, but it's not, because this is exactly what happened. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, we are going to see when we arrive at the verses that Maharaja Parikshit, when he saw that the incarnation of Kali was killing a bull, he wanted to kill him. And he told him, you cannot stay in my kingdom. And he said, I have to live somewhere. So give me a place where I can stay. And he said, okay, go wherever there is wealth, money, he said. And money or capacity of doing things without Krishna's mercy, this is where materialistic life starts. So if we run a society, we can't go away and cutting people's head because they eat meat or because they do this or that. We can't do that, because even demons need a place to stay, because they are demons, they need a demoniac place. Are we ready to accept this kind of compromises? You know, I personally, I would have problem, you know, to keep, maybe not the butcher houses, maybe they should be closed. You know, if you want to eat an animal, you kill it in your house, you do whatever you want. But will I give, I would personally, I would have some conscious problem. So again, and definitely, should we decide to run a society, cities, countries, maybe we should decide it. They will not let us do it, but maybe we should. It would certainly be better, but we need very intelligent people. We don't need kshatriyas, we don't need politicians, we need brains. We need brahmanas behind the politicians. You know, politicians, the work of politicians is very easy. If you lie, you are good. This is what a politician does. He lies. He will tell you, we are going to do it. You know that they are not going to do it. They just want your vote. And why they want your vote? For money and prestige. That's all. After you voted them, are they obliged to do what they promise you? They won't care less. They won't care less, because they got what they want. And you are just a useful fool, that you are being fooled in believing what he said. And majority of people in this society are fools. They know their brain. You know, you are tell them, they are told, oh, the vote was false, and they yes, like army of idiots. No, yes. No, because we were told yes. And this is the big army of fools, just no brain. They just will follow the. Do you have in English culture the story of the magic flutist? Do you know this story? Yes, you do. Okay, there is some story somewhere who told a story for kids, and there was this magic flutist, and he would play the flute, and everybody. And then there was an invasion, or I don't remember exactly the story. My mother told me when I was 3 or 4, maybe. And so they would follow it, and he led us into a ditch, and everybody died. Just because there is no brain. They just follow whatever a leader. We don't want that. We don't want that. We want a class of brahmanas. We want a class. Not that everybody will not become brahmanas, okay? But we should have a little more brahmanas and less fools in society. Okay, please some other question because I can't read. It's just too much.
Thank you.
Arrivo. Bhakta Andy.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Arrivo.
I had a question regarding pleasure and how you've, in a previous lecture, you've spoken about how it's okay to have a material desire, you know, to, in my understanding, it was like, it's okay to have like a material desire to get your foot in the door almost, as how I interpret it, like with Krishna consciousness. And so my question is, when I hear the word like pleasure and like posing the question of like, would you rather have like a temporary pleasure or a pleasure that lasts forever? There's just, I don't know, there's just like a guilt, I guess, that I feel comes from ignorance, of just like wanting pleasure. So when that question is asked, there's just some sort of guilt inside of me thinking like, oh, I shouldn't have pleasure, or I shouldn't desire pleasure. So I'm just hoping if you could elaborate on that.
Yes. Where the desire for pleasure comes from, it doesn't come from the material body, because the material body is inert, is dead. So where it comes from? It comes from the soul. It comes from us. It's part of our nature. So how can we not desire something that is natural, spiritually natural? We are made of much more complicated than that. You know, fundamentally, we are made of three characteristics: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So Sat means existence, and Chit means knowledge. We want knowledge. And Ananda means we want pleasure. It's just our eternal nature wanting pleasure. You cannot avoid it. And I know that our intelligence works in such a way that we think that since our materialistic life is, characterized by continuous and most desperate search for pleasure, then we should do the opposite. If we want to do spiritual life, we should do everything opposite of what we are doing in this materialistic life. Material life, we are always continue searching for pleasure. Then if we want to be spiritualist, we should not look for and feel guilty, as you say. You know, this is not correct, because it's just impossible not look for pleasure. It's part of our nature. The secret of life is looking for the right pleasure, not looking for avoiding pleasure. Because again, excuse me, repetitions, you know, you'll be defeated if you try to say, no, I like this, I will not do it just because I like it. I like to go to the temple. No, I should not go to the temple because I like it. Maybe I should go in a temple where I don't like to go. This is more spiritual because I don't like to go to the place. I should hear to classes of devotee that I don't like to hear. That is more spiritual than participate to classes of a devotee that I like to hear. This is not correct. It's just we had to identify that pleasure which corresponds to our spiritual nature. This is the secret. Like, do you like to eat? Who doesn't like to eat? So it is correct to eat should we eat only things that we don't like? Why we should do that? Yes, you should eat that you like, but you should offer it to Krishna. First of all, you should make sure that your liking corresponds to Krishna's liking. And you should study the scripture. They say, I can eat this, I cannot eat that. I like that, but Krishna doesn't like. So it is not possible to offer Krishna things that he doesn't like. You may like, meat, but Krishna doesn't want. So you can offer meat to Krishna in millions of years. He will never accept it. You will always eat boga, but you like it. So you identify what Krishna likes, what he tells you that you should like, because now you don't know what you like and what you don't like because you are in a state of ignorance. And once you know what you should like, then you begin the process. And once you develop some finer taste, then you like it. And yes, we should look for pleasure, but it should be a spiritual pleasure. When you read books because you like it. It is correct or not? Of course it's correct. There are some philosophies in this material world who say something similar. We should renounce everything, just like we talk a lot about renunciation. But our renunciation is different from other philosophies, renunciation, or other religions, renunciations. There are renunciants who they beat them with the whip, This is common in Christian culture. We don't do that. Because they had to suffer, and suffering gives you renunciation from the material world, because you identify your suffering with the body, and then you start hating the body because it gives you the pain. This is not the proper process. The proper process is to be more enjoying in Krishna consciousness. We should have a wonderful feast in the temple with a lot of samosa and pakora and whatever Krishna's blessings of good prasada. They should be offered to Krishna, and this is okay. Because if we start to identify pleasure with Krishna consciousness, then we'll be attracted to Krishna and repulsed, rejected, you say, repulsed?
Yes, repulsed.
Repulsed to material life. This is the positive process. The positive process is not to suffer, it's to enjoy in Krishna consciousness. It works better. It's not that you suffer in this material world, you automatically are attracted to God. You start hating God. Why? Because he put you in a situation where to go back to him, he has to suffer. You become a demon. Because you say, well, why? For Christ's sake, they will say, I had to suffer to get back to you. So in our philosophy, we enjoy to go back to Krishna, but we enjoy spiritually. So you chant nice rounds and you stay with good people, you are very clean, then you put the tilak, everything is so clean and beautiful, the temples must be nice, the prasada should be first class, the kirtan should be first class. This is the process.
Could I add to it a little? Okay. Well, it feels like following the process though, yeah, it feels like following the process though can sometimes, the process of purification can sometimes feel like suffering though, where in the sense of like, the mind is conditioned to enjoy material things. Like my mind, that's just what my mind is conditioned to right now. And so that not being able to do that and then trying to steer it to somewhere else can cause that kind of friction and tension, and it's not always pleasant. So I don't know if you can add to that.
The suffering does not come from the process. It comes from the attachment of the counter process of materialistic life. That's why you suffer. Because if you would be able to become detached from materialistic conception, from materialistic attachment, from materialistic identifications, etc., you will not suffer. So if you had two things that come together and causes problem in your psychology, in your psyche, you don't eliminate the positive thing, you eliminated the negative. So suffering comes from the materialistic side and not from the spiritual side. You want a proof? Everyone who is spiritually advanced is happy, and everyone who is materialistic advanced is miserable. Do you know anyone who's really happy? So, because why? Because inherently, materialistic life is suffering. It is suffering. It's just, you see it. When you will have my age and you'll see your present heroes, politicians and musicians and all beautiful women and models, etc., and you'll see it in 40 years, then you'll have a very, very strong realization, very, very strong realization of what material life is, how it just lasts 1 second. And that causes suffering because your happiness was based in something that had no base. In my age, one of the most beautiful women in the world was called Brigitte Bardot. Do you know Brigitte Bardot? Right. Rosalind, who is more or less my age, must know her. But Andy, they didn't know. She was very beautiful. You had to see her now. You had to see her now. She became a monster, the most beautiful woman in the world. So it doesn't take much intelligence to understand where the suffering lies and where the enjoyment lies. You know? Spiritual life is enjoyable, materialistic life is miserable.
Thank you very much.
You see, there was this big politician who was becoming the president of the United States. I saw him after 20 years. He lost, what's her name? I don't remember. I remember. Anyway, I remember him. Now it's like you don't recognize him. How the time is transfigurate is what's the name of this big politician? Anyway, so don't.
Bill Clinton?
Huh?
Bill Clinton?
No, he was the Bill Clinton second vice president.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Al Gore.
Al Gore. You got to see Al Gore 20 years ago and Al Gore now. You don't require two different persons. So this is how it works. This is materialistic. So you want to give your life for something that will finish? Okay, be my guest. But an intelligent person, sage or Namisharanya, will not waste his life, human formal life, for something like that. Okay, so now we have some more time. Maybe Rainman. What's your name?
Oh, Hare Krishna Maharaj. My name is Bhakta Richard.
Bhakta Richard. Okay. Okay, do you please make a question because we have 10 minutes to cover.
I don't understand. I know you explained it, but I still don't understand the concept of non-dual substance.
Yes. Non-dual means relativity, where there is something and its opposite. Okay? So something that is opposite have the same, how you say, the same dignity, the same power. Otherwise, it won't be something that is opposite, same power. Okay, so this is the principle of relativity. Relativity means there is something that is opposite. There is no one supreme things. There are two. Non-dual means that there are not two identical things which have the same power. There is one, and even its opposite comes from the one. So this is the meaning of non-dual. Non-dual means there is only one supreme personality of Godhead. Is the origin of everything. We have studied many times the characteristics, and like Janmaya Sayatanvaya Taratachate Swavigyasarat Tene Brahma Ridaya Dikavaye Muyanti Yasuraya Tejovari Mridam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Tisalgom Risha Dannasvena Sadani Rasta Puhakam Satyam Param Dimahi. You see, my memory is not completely burned out. I remember something. This is the verse number 1 of the Srimad Bhagavata, so please go read it, and you will see what non-dual means. It's the origin of everything that exists. There is no, like, there is God and Satan with the same power. Satan comes from God. So God is absolute, and the other one comes from him. So, however, does that mean that everything existing in God, in Krishna, is God? No. There is God, and there is his, maybe using a simple word, is manifestations. But they always come from the one. So that's why our philosophy is called Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva. Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva means one and different at the same time. So one, the supreme absolute truth is one. At the same time, it becomes many, but he becomes many. It's not that the many are God. No, the many comes from God. This is our philosophy. Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva.
I just have a quick question. I know you mentioned God and Satan. I know we don't believe in Satan, right?
Well, depends what does it mean, Satan.
Like the devil?
I don't know what the devil means. The devil means somebody works against us, wants to make us suffer. Not really, because this idea of the devil is something that could assomigliare, come si dice? How you say that? That look like Maya. You know, Maya works against us, but actually she doesn't work against us because she is devilish. She's not devilish. She's also a God's energy. So why God would want make us suffer? No, it doesn't want to make us suffer. But since we want this, he will give us all possible tools to live in this situation that we want. So the idea that there is somebody who for his own pleasure wants to make us suffer, this is wrong. Does not exist.
Thank you, Maharaj.
this would be also against the idea of one God. Saying that there are more gods, like in some concept, Satan is like a second God, because he works against God. So why God does not destroy him? Some say, no, he cannot destroy him because Satan is almost as powerful as God. So that's why God, this is stupid, you know, this is stupid. There cannot be two gods. Saying there are two gods is tantamount to say that there are no gods. There is no gods. Because when you say God, means the supreme, and cannot be too supreme. Because it just, from the logical point of view, they cannot be too infinite or too omnipervading. Omni is omni. Omni can be only one. Infinite only one, because there is once you are infinite, there are no other space to have another infinite. If you are too infinite, means that both the infinites are not infinite, and they are finite. So there are some philosophical or religious concepts that just are against very elementary logic, and we had to learn to defeat them. There's only one God. There is no counter God.
Thank you.
Much pleasure. But Andy.
Hare Krishna. This question wasn't really in regards to what we went over today, so I hope that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. So from the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is addressed as Hrishikesha, I think for the first time, Prabhupada in the purport mentions that as a devotee begins practice, as in Krishna begins to control his senses up to the point where the devotee is pure. He's a pure devotee, and Krishna has like absolute control of his senses, if I'm remembering that right. I was hoping that you could elaborate, what does that mean for Krishna to begin controlling our senses? I'm confused on what that means.
Well, the senses are ours and we had to control them. Of course, Krishna will help us to control them. But it's not that Krishna from Goloka Vrindavana, like a puppet, he says, okay, you don't do this. You had to do it. But since he is in your heart, he will help you. He will help you. So how can you control your senses? By Krishna consciousness. By being Krishna conscious, then Krishna control it in an ideal sense. But at the end, you have to control it by Krishna consciousness. Rishika means senses. Isha means controller. So how do we control our senses? By experimenting a superior pleasure. If you like it, if you like more on Sunday to go to the temple, then you will go to the temple. Because if you won't like to go to the temple, you can go by sense of duty 1 time, 2 or 3, 4 times, then you stop. Because you cannot do the whole of your life something you don't like. All right? So it must be the pleasure of Krishna consciousness that help you controlling your senses. And that takes time. It's not that theoretically it can be 1 second, but practically it's never happened 1 second. It takes time. It may take a year, it may take lives. But this is the process. By experimenting a superior pleasure, this is a verse of the Bhagavad Gita, you will be able to control your senses. Just like when Arjuna says to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, I want to control my mind, but it seems impossible. You know, it's like controlling the wind. You cannot control the wind. So Krishna says, by practice, and in another verse, it says, by experimenting superior pleasure. That's why Srila Prabhupada and all Vaishnava culture in general is so full of nice things. like chanting and dancing, and music, and all these kind of things, and books that tells you how Krishna plays with the gopis, etc. Any other philosophy, any other religion is full of hells and you suffer. In our philosophy also there are hells, of course. But basically it's not, our philosophy is very much concentrated on the positive things. The things will help us to develop attraction to Krishna consciousness. And the fear of materialistic life and health, etc., should be there because they exist. So we have to know that they exist. But they cannot be the fulcrum. I cannot be the fulcrum of our philosophy. So we speak every time we say material life is miserable. We have to say it because it's true. But I cannot do a class on how miserable materialistic life is. You know, I have to explain how beautiful Krishna consciousness is. Okay, so we have 1 or 2 questions more. Maybe Cassandra can come out of his hiding and say something, and then we'll close. Before you do the other 1 or 2 questions, final 1 or 2 questions, I want to tell you that I had to suspend working on the Italian version of the Nandagram book, which we are going to love when we'll have it in English, absolutely love. Because we are redoing our Mahabharata in Italian. We try to publish it in hard copy, and Amazon does not accept it because of problems of impaginazione or layout. Then I had to redo it. I did it again. It's too big. It's more than 600 pages. So we are going to have in 3 or 4 days, I will have finished Mahabharata in Italian into volumes, like in English and in Spanish. Also, we have ordered the Mahabharata in English. Only one of you wanted a copy, apart from Bhatta Andy, of course, and Cassandra. So I ordered only 3, one for my library, the second for Bhatta Andy, who worked very hard to give us a nice Mahabharata, and the other one for Bhattina B. And so this is the news. Not that you are concerned much because it's in Italian, but I think you should know what I'm working on. Okay, back to Cassandra.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. I personally enjoy when you share your news. It keeps it personal, so I really enjoy it.
Thank you.
But I had a question. So you were talking about desiring pleasure, and why is it that the Mayavadis, I'm sorry, let me make myself more clear, that it's the spirit, it's natural to desire pleasure. Because you were saying that that's where it comes from, because matter, the body is just dead matter, so it doesn't come from the body. But then why do the Mayavadis try to renounce desire if it's a natural for the spirit?
Because the idea of perfection, spiritual perfection, is not a personal perfection. You cannot divide, I want to use more proper, you cannot split person from pleasure, because it's person, it's a person. A person has the desire of pleasure. So their perfection was to renounce personality and to merge into the impersonal Brahman. And since the Brahman is impersonal, there are no person, and then there is no pleasure. Everything that is personal for them is Maya, That's why they are called Mayavadi. Mayavadi means neti, 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 neti. You know, neti, na, iti in Sanskrit. Na means not. And iti, this. Neti, neti, neti. When you talk to them and you say this and this, and they would say neti, neti, neti. This is false, this is false. This is what it's like to be present in a class with a Mayavadi. This is not true, this is not true. So that's why they are against pleasure, because where where they want to go, there is no pleasure because there is no personality. They want to destroy the personality. They want to merge into the Brahmajyoti, the supreme light, the supreme personality of God. That's light. That's why.
Thank you, Maharaj. And just to add on to that, they want to merge into the supreme light to become God, or what is that the goal? Why go into the light?
Well, for them, there is no God. There is no God. They are Mayavada philosophy is actually an atheist philosophy, because for us, theistic philosophy, theos comes from the Greek, means God. It involves necessarily a person, a one person, you know. But for everybody else who don't accept the one God, they are actually atheists. There is no one God who is supreme. The supreme entity is a light, and I become one with the light. I lose my personality. I'm not Manonatha anymore. There is no Cassandra, there is no Andy, there is no. We become one with the light. And we lose our personality, we lose our individuality. So they don't actually want to become God. They want to merge into the supreme light, called Brahma Jyoti. Jyoti means light, Brahma means spiritual light. So if one thinks it over, that's horrible, you know. That's worse than death. Because when you die, you lose your life. But at least we know now that we don't die. But in Mayavadi, that is ultimate death, because they are going forever to lose their person, also they think. But actually, when they merge into the supreme light, the Brahmajyoti, they think that it is an irrevocable situation, but actually they are not. They don't lose the individuality. They just think they lost it. After some time, they have to come back in this material world.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. That was a great answer. It made more questions, but I will wait for next class.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so we have one or two questions more, and then we stop, and we resume next week. For those of you who speak Spanish, tomorrow I'm going to have a video conference in Italian, and after tomorrow in Spanish. Okay, Bhattandi.
Hare Krishna. So my question was, I don't remember the number of the verse, but where it said by knowledge and practice, I don't think this is verbatim either. By knowledge and practice, one realizes that absolute truth as a fact. I was hoping if you could elaborate on that. What does it mean to realize?
Can you say it again, please?
Yes. By knowledge and practice, one
Say.
Oh, one realizes that absolute truth as a fact.
Yeah. Yes. We have a tendency, until we don't realize things, we think that this is a nice philosophy. You know, it's good to hear philosophy, you know. And so many people go to classes of philosophers and poets and like this. Or religion. We go to a mass and we hear it. This is not going to change anything in our life, but we like it. So, and we are, the difference between philosophy and Krishna consciousness, that we don't preach a philosophy, we preach a way of life. Our philosophy has to become the way you live. Because otherwise, well, better than nothing, of course. Better to hear a nice Bhagavatam class, and then you continue doing whatever you were doing before the Bhagavatam class. But if you want to take the full advantage, then a Bhagavatam class should become part of your life. The way you think, your values of life, the way you speak, the way you act, the way you dress, the way everything you do should change. And this is the proof that you are advancing in spiritual life. That visibly, I speak a lot about this, visibly you are changing. I say it every time, Sometimes you give class at 10th of year to the same people, nothing change. Why? But they come to classes. They never lose a class, but nothing changes. Why? Because they come like they go to cinema, with the popcorn. They hear this white-dressed man talking nice philosophy, sometimes smiling, sometimes getting into my case, sometimes, just like this. And then you finish, you go. But this is not what Krishna consciousness is all about. Something has to visibly change in your life, in the way you speak, think, behave. This is why we give classes. Okay, so last question, and then we close.
Thank you.
Hari Bo. Bhakti Rosalind.
Hare Krishna. In text 7, what is meant by causeless knowledge? It says one immediately acquires causeless knowledge. Is knowledge not subject to karma, to, what does that mean, causeless knowledge?
Causeless means something that has no cause. Just like your knowledge now is a cause. You hear classes and this is a cause knowledge. But then with purification, you'll see the knowledge will come from your heart without nobody telling you. It's just coming out naturally. So just like why I push so much into embracing a Vaishnava lifestyle, because this will facilitate you to become a Vaishnava, even nobody telling you. If you dress as a devotee, naturally when you walk around, you are pushed, you are obliged to behave like a gentleman, because Vaishnavas are gentlemen, okay? You don't put your dhoti and kurta and then you go stealing or misbehaving in society, because you are a Vaishnava, I represent somebody and I should not misbehave. So there is cause knowledge and there is causeless knowledge. That will come. You will see when you will start preaching regularly, chanting, and you will see that you will do things that you never knew you could do it. Or you give classes and you will be, you will be surprised by what you say. You didn't know that you knew that. Or you didn't know that you were able to speak. But it comes. Why? Because Krishna is helping you. Krishna is not just like the question that Bhattayendi did before. The Krishna will control your senses. In this perspective, he does. But you do it. You have to desire that Krishna helps you control your senses. But otherwise, if you don't want to control your senses, Krishna does not control your senses, because you don't want. These are your senses. Okay. So
is there some instinct involved in causeless knowledge? This feeling that I just know, an instinct?
you can call it instinct if you like, and if by instinct means something that is natural in your heart, you didn't know, that by purification is coming out. It's just coming out. Instinct, maybe it's a good word, you know. Instinct is natural, just like a dog barks. Nobody tell him to bark, but he does just because he's a dog by instinct today. So if we advance in spiritual life, then we speak, think, behave like Vaishnava, because by nature we are Vaishnavas.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, I enjoy very much giving Thursday classes with you all. I hope that I'm sorry that I don't read more, but just can't do it. You know, it's very difficult for me to read. And so speak is easier for me because I don't necessarily really to look towards. So maybe, and you cannot read, I cannot have, like in Spanish, somebody to read because it is impossible to read all the 18,000 verses. You'll see that when we get out from the beginning part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is all extremely beautiful, extremely, that I must read it. You know, you will see that we'll go a little faster. Okay, so thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Manonatha
Krishna.
Maharaj ki jai.
Hi, Jai.